One thing became clear from the moment Friday running began. McLaren arrived in Abu Dhabi with a plan already signposted from the outset. Team orders if the situation demanded it. But the facts emerging from FP2 make the logic behind that stance worth questioning. Norris set the reference in single-lap pace and naturally became the focus of attention. Yet the full picture from Friday was nowhere near as straightforward. Piastri, having only taken part in one session, immediately struggled to extract grip on his first push lap on the softs and locked up, leaving his headline time irrelevant. But over the long run on the medium compound, the indicators of actual race performance told a very different story. Piastri sat extremely close to Verstappen's average pace and consistently within a few hundredths of Antonelli, a position far more meaningful for long-distance competition in several segments. Even Norris's tire behavior looked more sensitive than Piastri's. With that in mind, it's reasonable to ask whether McLaren's evaluation of Piastri has been based on a single failed lap rather than the complete data set that shows he has the underlying pace to be a crucial factor in the title fight. Looking purely at the numbers relevant to race day, McLaren should arguably pause or even cancel any pre-planned team order scenario until the performance gap is genuinely conclusive. So, what is actually driving this decision? Data or preference? If you want to follow the deeper strategic breakdown behind this, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the full analysis. As the final round of the World Championship edges closer, the list of competing narratives around McLaren has grown at a speed that almost rivals the on-track tension. They enter Abu Dhabi with one driver leading the championship, another still mathematically alive, and a rival in Max Verstappen lurking close enough to punish any hesitation. In that sense, a team preparing potential instructions is unsurprising. But the circumstances surrounding the team's internal balance, public messaging, and performance profile add layers that go far beyond a standard title decider script. Norris's position in the standings brings clarity. He leads Verstappen by 12 points and can secure the title with the podium. Piastri sits 16 points behind, meaning he needs both a strong result and significant misfortune for the two ahead. But this mechanical reading of the championship table doesn't account for the flow of the season, nor the way opportunities have swung at crucial moments. Qatar, in particular, remains an inflection point. McLaren's call not to pit either car during the early safety car cost Piastri a likely victory, one that would have left him within single digits of the lead. That strategic choice is central to why the championship gap looks the way it does now. The effect of that moment reached far beyond the paddock. In Australia, the backlash was loud enough to reach Parliament, where the issue of potential bias towards Norris was raised partly serious, partly political theater, but still a sign of how sharply sentiment has turned. Piastri was measured about the attention, saying, "I did see it reach Parliament. That's quite impressive. The fact that my name is in Parliament in Australia is pretty cool in some ways." His reaction was calm, but the symbolism was unmissable. Public scrutiny over McLaren's internal decisions has become global. That scrutiny intensified further when an Australian media outlet claimed Piastri had been banned from speaking to his national press, while Norris continued to meet British journalists. The story was incorrect, but its spread showed how sensitive the discourse has become. McLaren canceled all optional media sessions for both drivers. Yet this neutral action was interpreted as selectively protective. It spoke to a wider environment in which every action, however small, is read through the lens of potential preference. Against this backdrop, Friday's running took on a different weight. Norris looked sharp from the beginning, and his fastest lap on the softs in FP2 underlined his confidence. But the long-run averages, the sort that matter for Sunday, painted a more complex picture. Verstappen's sustained pace was within a tenth of Norris before the Red Bull driver reported something felt broken in the final laps. Piastri, meanwhile, was only marginally behind Verstappen despite completing fewer laps. Mark Hughes's breakdown of the data added meaningful context. Front graining was an early concern for McLaren, especially for Norris. And typically, Abu Dhabi's evolving grip profile can amplify that pattern before it improves. Piastri referenced this process himself. "I got there pretty well on the medium," he said. "Just on the soft. I didn't get the most out of the grip on that first-time lap." Still, McLaren's public stance remains anchored in the championship table. Zak Brown made that clear, stating, "We'll be practical and realistic. If it becomes clear that one has a significantly better chance than the other, then we're going to do what we can to get that driver in front." The reasoning is defensible. The issue is timing. By declaring preparedness for team orders at this stage before qualifying, before the pattern of tire wear is clear, before long-run deltas have stabilized McLaren risk, reinforcing the perception that Norris is already the main priority. Piastri himself was diplomatic, smiling during the press conference when asked if he would yield a podium to help his teammate win the title. "It's not something we've discussed," he said. "I don't have an answer until I know what's expected of me." The meaning is clear. He intends to race, but he is not in conflict with the team. Norris, for his part, attempted to frame the issue with fairness. "It's up to Oscar if he'd allow it," he said. "I would. That's how I am. I'm not going to ask for it, as I don't think it's a fair question." His wording is considerate, but it also acknowledges the imbalance that naturally appears in a title fight. And this is where the data complicates the narrative. If Piastri's long-run pace is genuinely competitive with Verstappen, then allowing him to remain in play without intervention is strategically valuable. A two-car threat is far more difficult for Red Bull to manage than a single focal point. Moreover, if Norris's tire life is more fragile, as suggested by early signs of front graining, then enforcing a fixed finishing order could become counterproductive, especially in a race where tire behavior often decides the final stint. It also raises the broader question of what equal opportunity means in practice. McLaren have insisted all year that their drivers are treated evenly, and the team's handling of complex situations such as Hungary and Italy has been publicly defended on operational grounds. But equal opportunity cannot only exist on paper. It must also exist in interpretation, in timing, and in the willingness to adapt to new evidence. Friday's data is not conclusive, but it is substantial enough to merit a more cautious approach than the one suggested by early team order readiness. There is also a psychological dimension worth noting. Piastri's calm handling of the media attention, his measured responses to speculation, and his composure after the Qatar setback show a driver who remains steady under pressure. Norris, meanwhile, enters with title expectations he has not carried before. That alone is not a reason to adjust strategy, but it does suggest that keeping options open rather than committing early could serve McLaren better across different race scenarios. The final consideration is the external competitor. Verstappen has turned a large points deficit into a narrowing title chance. His recent run of strong performances shows a driver who capitalizes on any hesitation. Red Bull's Friday pace was stronger than expected, and Verstappen framed the gap as something that still needs work, but is within reach. If McLaren lock themselves into a hierarchy too early, they may limit their tactical options against a driver who excels when opportunities appear. The evidence from FP2 suggests that Piastri's potential impact is far greater than his classification indicates. If the aim is to secure both the race and the championship, holding back that potential too early seems counterproductive. That leaves us heading into qualifying with more uncertainty than clarity, and with a team balancing data, pressure, and perception in a weekend that will define its season. The question is this: if the numbers continue to point to a closer internal battle than the standings suggest, will McLaren allow both drivers to race freely, or will the decision already be set before the lights go out?